we're number one. I don't know if it's good or bad in this case. Usually being number one is great, but for some of you, you're going to be depressed. Okay, we are number one in price growth. We, as in Knoxville, Tennessee, is number one in price growth in the entire United States from 2019 to 2025. Let's dive in and talk about why. Hey, what's up? It's me, Haley Jones, your Knoxville and East Tennessee real estate agent. In full disclosure, I make these videos so you'll call me so I can help you buy and sell a property in the Knoxville and East Tennessee area. I'm not going to cold call anyone, so I'm making videos. You get to know me, you call me, and we get you real estate success. So just a little plug there for you. All right, now this video is about an article recently released from Realtor.com. Have you heard of it? And it's titled it's the 10 U.S. cities seeing the biggest home value boom since 2019. So we're saying from 2019 to present, 2025, what cities in the U.S. had the biggest boom, the biggest growth in prices? Now, on one hand, it's positive, and on the other hand, it's not so positive, depending on your philosophy of living. Okay, Knoxville is ranked number one, far and above everyone else. So from 2019 to 2025 for Knoxville, home values surged nearly almost 90%, right at 86% from 2019 to 2025. Now there's a lot of reasons why this happened, but because of that number, it makes it clearly the strongest. Now, there's some things going on in the Knoxville area that people need to think like long term. Obviously, 2020 was COVID. But before that, the Knoxville area was already lower in inventory, and the Knoxville area also has historically underbuilt. If you compare new construction to Metro Nashville, to Chattanooga, to all those things in the Knoxville area, we have historically underbuilt, so we have not kept our inventory up, for one. So already going into COVID, we were already very low in inventory. So I pulled, obviously, as I do, the math teacher and me pulled a bunch of data. But what I want to show you is if we look at the number of listings in October of 2019, or our absorption rate. So our absorption rate, this is October of 2019. Absorption rate, 2.45 months. That is a strong seller's market. Our inventory was already low. So that is kind of the context of this 2019 to 2025, as we were already seeing a lack of inventory. Well, as things happened, as businesses continued to invest in the area, and Knoxville made a huge push into being a live, work, and play place, a place that people want to live, work, and play, we saw an influx of people relocating into the area. Some of the other reasons that Realtor.com lists for why Knoxville exploded in value beyond this whole push towards quality of life is job growth and innovation. So companies are continuing to invest here. So companies like Axel Logistics, GCI, Ed Financial, we have companies continuing to come to the area and surrounding areas to invest and bring jobs. We also have a ton of outdoor stuff. According to Realtor.com, they quote 50 plus miles of trails within 2 miles of downtown. And so that would include, if you go to Baker Creek Preserve, if you go to there's extensive trails throughout. Now, they later mentioned that Knoxville is walkable, and that's not true. So yeah, we do have a lot of outdoor activities, but I would not consider Knoxville walkable unless you're in the immediate downtown. You have Farragut with a ton of trails. You have Maryville, which is, I know, outside of Knoxville, but it goes into this whole area of why people are coming here, because we do have a lot of outdoor things. You have the urban wilderness. That's what I was trying to come to my brain when we're talking about 50 plus miles of trails. If you go to Knoxville Urban Wilderness, you're going to see all those trails. And that is continuing to grow. We're seeing mountain bike trails, even within the city happening. So we have a lot of push towards being outside. We also have the river. We have a ton of lakes. We have the mountains nearby. So all of that is desirable, right? Also, of course, something that is a staple in Knoxville is the University of Tennessee. So that, of course, brings jobs. We are an education hub. We are a research hub. And then also, hello, SEC Sports. Have you heard of it? We're huge in that, right? So all of those are also things that attract people to the area. And then, of course, it goes without saying, we have tax advantages. We have no state income tax, and several different sources have different numbers. But Realtor.com mentions that in this article, Realtor.com mentions that we have a lower cost of living comparatively. So some sources say 23% lower than the national average. Other sources say 13.5% lower than the national average. Regardless, our taxes are lower for sure, especially when it comes to property taxes. And then income taxes, we don't have state income tax. So those are two things just right there, not to mention your grocery bills, your gas, all of that. So all of those things are reasons why people want to be in Knoxville. And then that's what kind of caused migration into the area. So that being said, we had a ton of out-of-town people come to Knoxville. So, of course, as I mentioned, during the pandemic, in 2019, in the inventory of homes for sale that we had was already seen as historically low. It was already very low. Well, then 2020 hits, people start flocking in even further. Inventory bottoms out. Let me see if I can find that graph. Like the houses on the market, the houses available, just basically bottom out. We're going to need the longitudinal one. Let me just show you this. I think I have it. Do I have it? Number of listings. Well, you can see here, even if we just look at we can see that we've got, this is 600. What? This was from 2018 to 2019, and then we bottomed out even further below that. So anyways, that being said, demand. That's essentially what I'm saying. There was a huge demand, and we had more people come in to the area. And then the Realtor.com article says that annual appreciation hit 28% at the peak. Sellers saw shocking gains, many earning $40,000 to $100,000 in equity in short ownership periods. I myself have seen clients who purchased literally I had some clients who purchased in January of 2020, so before things went crazy. It was like December or January at like 600 and sold last year for the high nines. So there's value there. So when people are looking at what somebody bought in 2019, they're like, oh, the price doubled. Well, in some cases it has doubled. And people are like, well, what did they do to it? Well, the market is what happened. They may have made some updates, but come on, it's the market. So the downside of all of this, and the thing that I haven't mentioned, and why I said some of you may be really like, oh, this sucks, is affordability is obviously a problem. And this is not just on the wanting to buy and sell a house, wanting to buy a house. This is also for renters. Rents have gone up drastically. At one point, you had some really sketchy stuff going on with apartments and people being put on month to month, or they would have to give these crazy, timelines of if they were going to move, and if they didn't, they were going to be at the market rate of rent every month, which how that's legal, I don't know. But I had two clients who that specifically happened to. It was like, oh, you're buying a house? Okay, well, we're going to let you know what your rent is when the time comes. Or you're going to pay this massive fee to get out of that rent. So, sketchy stuff going on. I'm not saying that's across the board, because I think that's probably some sketchy outfits. You know what I'm saying? But we do have an affordability problem. And, regardless of what happens with the mortgage rates, prices aren't, people keep thinking, oh, there's going to be a bubble, prices are going to come down. Well, let me just show you something. Okay, so this is days on market, whatever, but I wanted to show you the summary graph. So this is October of 2025. You can see median sold price at 214, median sell price now, October 2025, so October 2019. October 2025, median sell price is 78% higher. 78%. Average that's where that 87% average sold price from 261,000 to 490,000. Now, here's the thing. When we talk about interest rates and affordability, part of it is we know that their incomes haven't gone up 86%, right? So the affordability piece, whether you're buying a house or you are trying to rent, incomes have not kept up with this appreciation, right? So that's that affordability piece. And even with rates dropping, like we're probably not ever going to see rates again in the 2.7s or whatever. But even rates coming into the 5s, yes, that gets a lot more buyers back into the market. However, it doesn't compensate for that drastic price escalation. The other thing to note is that something that has been a super negative about this is that this is a 6-year time span, 2019 to 2025. We saw 2019, 2020, 21 prices boom, okay? So for example, this is all of the East Tennessee MLS, okay? This is October 2019 and this is 2022. It only let me take 36 months at it. So this is a 3-year time span, okay? If I put this side by side, so this would be October 2022 to 2025. This graph, you see, this is a clear uptick in pricing. It's obvious prices went up. But then if we look, just so you know, the scale here starts at 200,000 on this one, the 2019. The scale on the 2022 to 2025 starts at 300,000. So we're up already 100,000 from 2019 to 2022. Okay. So what I'm getting at though is clear uptick, and then we see a bit more of a flat line. I point that out because a lot of sellers now think, okay, I can ask high on my house. And that is not necessarily true. It depends on what you have to sell, where it is, upgrades or not, school districts, of course, proximity to things. So there was at one point when we would list a house and we would have 25 showings a day, 10 offers in the first day. We're not seeing that anymore. Now, we might see, depending on what something is, we still have a lower inventory, but we're much more caught up in inventory. So now what's happened is there's this kind of like perception on the part of many sellers that, oh, I can just list for a high number and I'm going to have all this activity and all this action. That's not true. Like there's a little bit of a correction when it comes to pricing because like buyers aren't really, there's more options than what there was before. And also the rates aren't as low. So there's this dynamic of like the prices are higher, the rates are not as low. So you have to be super motivated if you're a buyer in this market of like, it is time to buy. So if you list too high, I'm actually seeing buyers that won't even look at stuff because of a purchase price, even though there's probably flexibility on it, they won't even look at it. So because we saw such price increase in this time period of 2019 to 2025, the perception is like, oh, I can list high and get high. Well, maybe. It might sit for a while. Now, will it sell eventually? Yeah. I mean, probably, depending on what it is and like, all the things. It's specific to every property. But houses are still selling. It's just they are not going off the shelves like they were before. I mean, before, I had one listing where we had 20 offers on it. Now, that wasn't the norm. But multiples, yeah, that was pretty much the norm. 2, 3, 4 easily offers. We're not seeing that. So that tells you like it's not as competitive as what it was. So for a buyer, when people are like, how's the market now? Well, you still have to be aggressive on the buy side. You're still going to pay way more than what you were going to pay in 2019. But it's not like, here's my firstborn child, which is what was happening in 2020, 21, 22, until when rates increased, things kind of slowed way down. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, we will continue to see what happens with the Knoxville market. But I had just a conversation I had the other day. And I have this conversation often, is people are worried about like the Knoxville area bursting. Is the bubble going to burst? Well, it's not really like it wasn't as if it was a bubble, because we went into the pandemic super low in inventory, and we even now still today are low in inventory. If I just look at that Knox County graph that I just showed you about our absorption rate, that summary graph, this one. So here's October 2019, 2.45. This is Knox County, mind you. This is not all of the East Tennessee MLS. This is just Knox County, which is Knoxville, Powell, Farragut, Halls, South Knox, Hardin Valley, Cedar Bluff, Fountain City, all of them. Everything. Holston Hills, Strawberry Plains. You get what I'm saying, okay? Coreyton. All of those are in Knox County. 2.45%. That is a strong buyer's market. Now, even today in Knox County, October 2025 absorption rate, 3 months. This means if nothing else went on the market today, we would be out of homes to sell in 3 months. So we are still in a strong market. However, our prices are way higher. But even interestingly, look at October, median days on market in October of 2019, 13. 6 days longer now. So we're about a week longer median days on market. So this is still a strong market. Like, this still indicates stuff is still happening. However, it is hyper local. Even if you look within a zip code, Knox County has 35 zip codes. So this data represents 35 zip codes. Some of them have seen prices come down. Some of them have seen prices continue to go up. So it's all with a grain of salt. But the bottom line is that when it comes to the Knoxville area and people being concerned about a bubble or like prices are going to come down, it's probably not going to happen. And unless you're in very specific areas that you're watching and you're seeing like, okay, what is that? Who specifically is moving there? But the bottom line is that Knox County saw huge growth from 2019 to 2025. And I am not saying we're going to see that same historic growth over the next 6 years. I'm just saying what led us to this was very low inventory to begin with. The bottom dropped out. There was basically nothing to buy. People continued to move here, which is why we saw prices soar, as well as the fact that our interest rates were so low. That being said, we still have people moving to the area. We still have people buying and selling. We are building. We're still not building at the capacity that we should have been, or whatever you want to say. Whatever the inventory production should have been, is still not where it should be. So all of those factors mean that we are very unlikely to have a bubble. And then the other thing, as I mentioned, the University of Tennessee is not going anywhere. The Great Smoky Mountains, they're not going anywhere. All of the lakes we have, like all of this stuff that we have that makes this a desirable place to be, is not going anywhere. State income tax, we don't have one. So those factors continue to make Knoxville a super desirable place. So this idea that, oh my gosh, the bubble's gonna burst, I'm not gonna have any home equity, like, that's not true. No. If you buy a house in May and you want to sell it in August for a profit, that's not gonna happen, okay? I mean, it could happen. But is it likely to happen? No. As with any real estate transaction, you're thinking this is a 5, 7, etc. year situation. Maybe 3 years from now, you're going to come out on the up and up, depending on what happens. But I mean, we're still not in the game of like, yeah, I'm going to buy it in May and sell it in August. Like, that is not a thing. And I mentioned that because I've seen that happen where maybe life happened, there was a change in job or whatever. Like, the market is not so strong that you're not going to lose money if you quickly turn around a house within a couple months. Like, it's not like that. Also, there's seasonality to this. So if you bought a house in May or June on the up and up, and then you try to sell it in November of the same year for more than what you paid, people are going to be like, what's happening? Don't think so. Do not think so. So just a side note. That being said, are we likely to have a bubble bursting and people are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity? No, not likely. So anyways, that is a positive thing about purchasing in the Knoxville area because we are pretty well insulated when it comes to what we have in the area, and we continue to be a place that people want to move and come to. So anyways, we're number one. I know for some people they're not going to like that, but I think we are number one. I love it here. So anyways, if you have questions, if you want to know more specifically about what about Maryville, what about Seymour, what about Sevierville, let me know, and I will of course make some content about those super specific areas. This is specifically about Knoxville. We do have different markets. So for example, Knox County, Sevier County, they're neighbors. They have very different stories when it comes to real estate because Sevier County is both a residential, single family, full-time place and a tourist market. And also, by the way, there's a lake, which means we have some summer short-term rental stuff. We have year-long people coming to the mountains, also Sevier County. So Sevier County and Knox County, just as an example, they are two different animals. If we, so just thinking about what's happening in the larger ecosystem, we have seen a bubble type situation, if you could call this, in Sevier County where, people did buy in 2020, 21, 22 at very high prices. And now you've got something like 11 months of inventory in Sevier County for short-term rentals versus in Knox County for single family homes, October 2025, we're looking at 3 months of inventory. And those counties, they're right next to each other. Literally right outside my window. Knox County on one side of the street, Sevier County on the other. So, just keep in mind that all of this is, of course, super hyper local. So that being said, I hope this has been interesting to you. I hope this hasn't been depressing. If anything, to me, it's encouraging. On the buy side, you know that you're investing in a place. And when I say investing, I mean whether you're coming here to live full time or you're investing in rental properties or whatever, Knoxville continues to be a place that is desirable. And Knoxville as a entity is making it so that Knoxville is desirable, right? So that's a positive thing on the buy side. On the sell side, you're going to end up on the positive. Maybe you're thinking, should I list at 420 or should I list at 450? Well, you want to be very specific about what's happening in your neighborhood. What are the actives currently? What's sold in the last 90 days? So you're looking at all those things. But if you bought at 200,000 in 2019 and you're trying to decide between 400 and 420 or 420 and 450, that's a good problem to have. I mean, come on, so let's be real about it. Let's just be honest. All right. So as always, I'm Haley Jones. As I said, I'm your Knoxville and East Tennessee real estate agent. And full disclosure, again, I make these videos so you will call me because I would love to help you buy and sell real estate in the Knoxville and East Tennessee area. That being said, always click subscribe because you love to watch these videos. No, I'm just kidding. But I do have so much more to share with you, and I will see you on the next video.